I'm from Chile, and I was reading a couple of weeks ago that you were visiting our country. Chile? Yeah. As you know, one of the indigenous groups in Chile is the Mapuche, and that was the only indigenous group that Spain recognized as a nation when they, invaded the Americas. The only way that the people, Mapuche people, was colonized was through economic, relation with Chile. I read also you were in Temuco. My question is, how was that experience for you, knowing that even though we have a socialist government, they are being, incarcerated, taking their land away? And how was your impression about Mapuches?
Yeah, well, I was in Temuco, that's southern Chile. It's kind of it's called the border, actually. Metaphorically, it's the border between European Chile and Indian Chile. I met with Mapuche leaders and activists there. Spent a couple hours with them, and yeah, they have real serious grievances, which are partially being dealt with by the government, but very partially. It's a long way to go. I also met up in the north. I got to the north, to Iquique, and was able to talk. They're the main Indian groups, Aymara, and there it's kind of striking. The Aymara Indians have practically taken over Bolivia, which is right across the border, but the colonial system is still so deeply implanted, like psychically, that the Aymara Indians in northern Chile, like not very far away, follow the road, that's what you get, are wondering, can their language survive? Can their culture survive? Is there any way to revitalize it? But right across the border, they practically took over Bolivia. But it's separated. It's one of the important things that's happening in Latin America now is the beginning of the integration of the society. It's the bare beginning. I was there 10 years earlier, and I was interested then to see to what extent the heavy hand of the dictatorship still was visible, and it was very visible. I'll give you some examples. I was interested this time to see if it had changed much. It hasn't changed that much. I'm sure if you're Chilean, you know better than I do. It has among young people. But when I was there, there was a strike of high school students against higher costs and things. And the police broke it up with extreme violence. And nobody batted an eyelash. There was no reaction that I could see. Even among the kind of sort of leftist intellectual types that I was with, they didn't like it, But it wasn't, the police, the power of authority is so, they didn't like it, But it wasn't, the police, the power of authority is so extreme that you don't challenge it. This shows up in ways which are utterly grotesque. So I was, Vida Grimaldi, the main Pinochet torture chamber, hideous torture chamber. It's now sort of, rebuilt. But I was taken through it by somebody I know who actually went through the torture. He's now a pretty distinguished human rights activist, international lawyer. But he took me and a couple other people through the torture chamber, describing in detail every hideous practice that took place, and it is beyond belief. The entire torture sessions until death were supervised by doctors. They had to keep the patients alive so they could get to the next stage of torture. What happened to those doctors? They're practicing in Santiago. You don't know how to react to that. The Chilean economy is supposed to be a free market miracle. The economy depends very heavily on copper exports. And the biggest copper producer in the world is Codelco, nationalized Chilean copper company. Not only does that produce a lot of their export income, but like other nationalized companies in efficient countries, and Chile is pretty efficient, Codelco provides revenues to the state. In fact, about 7 times as much as the private companies. Well, that doesn't show up in economic calculations. In fact, nationalized companies are called inefficient because they're not maximizing profit. They're pouring money into the state. That's where most of what there is, of not much, of Chile's welfare system comes from. Well, that's the market miracle. 10% of Codelco's production, by law, has to go to the military. And nobody's challenging that. The Concertación has a majority, big majority, they could pass it, but the hand of the dictatorship is so strong that people just can't get their way out of it.